All right, people. Travis Brown, Horror Movies Uncut, the illustrious family, also the Submissions and Slashers podcast. I am very, very, very happy to speak to two gentlemen right now from a film that I got a chance to see at the Chattanooga Film Festival. Look, I'm already back. I'm already back from Chat, already back in St. Louis. Got a chance to see this film, Mind, Body, Spirit, that played at the festival. It was one of the opening films at the festival. So the people that were there got to see this in one of the earlier time slots. Everybody was talking about it. I knew everybody was going to be talking about it because I got a chance to see the film also. So I have Alex Henes, like jeans, right? And Matthew Merenda. And these two gentlemen are behind the film, Mind, Body, and Spirit. First and foremost, gentlemen, namaste. Welcome to the show. Very, very happy to have you here and very, very excited to talk about this film, as you can see with the smile on my face. But first and foremost, I always have to ask anyone that I interview, and I want separate answers from both of you guys. Matthew, you go ahead, kick it off first. How are you doing today, man? How's life treating you right now? And then Alex, you follow up. Same thing.
I'm doing very well, and thank you for having us.
Yes, for sure.
I've been doing a lot of traveling, and I'm finally back in LA for a length of time, which is nice. It's nice to sleep in your own bed and have time to regroup and
love the RoboCop flow back there too, bro. That's
thank you,
back there,
thank
brother.
you.
So, and my God, St. Louis, but Alex, I can't even talk to you yet with the St. Louis Cardinal stuff going on. So, Matthew, continue.
Oh no, that was it. That was it. I'm doing great. I'm
okay.
Happy to be back home and just hanging out and enjoying the summer.
Okay, so Alex, first and foremost, who's your favorite St. Louis Cardinals player of all time? Okay, because no one wears those shirts without true love for the real River City, which is St. Louis, correct?
Wait, are you saying over Louisville, Kentucky?
We the real River City, dog. Okay, we the mighty Mississippi City. Okay,
Travis, I have something to tell you. I was born in St. Louis, but I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm a diehard Louisville guy.
Oh my God!
My mother-in-law just moved. She just got an incredible job at Washington University in St. Louis, which is
right around the corner for me. Right around the corner for me.
Yep. And so we went to a Cardinals game this year.
Awesome.
Couldn't tell you a single player on the team. I loved watching Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa go at it. I think steroids should be allowed in sports. It's like, they're going to hit each other. Let them do whatever they want.
Okay, the UFC did not hear me say for sure, actually, because I might have a couple interested parties in there. So
that was a glitch.
So gentlemen, let's talk about Mind, Body, and Spirit. I'm so glad you guys are here. First off, and any one of you guys can answer this. Tell me how excited you are that people got a chance and are now getting the chance to see this film at festivals like Chattanooga Film Festival.
Beyond excited. It's funny because we sort of obviously conceptualized the movie during the pandemic and shot it during the pandemic, and everyone's doing what we're doing now and kind of like communicating through screens and stuff. And we kind of saw it as this thing that would have life on streaming and like be watched on TV and at home, and being able to see it in theaters with an audience totally kind of changes the dynamic of the movie and is very, very fun. And so it's been a real treat to see it with audiences.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
We almost forgot we made a movie. Yeah. Like, it's like watching a horror movie with a group of people. You realize that's kind of the only way to watch a horror movie. It's like you get something from that experience that you're not going to get watching it on your phone or on your computer. But I think what's cool about this movie is that you're gonna get a different and cool experience no matter how you watch it, because the whole thing is sort of shaped like a YouTube playlist.
Right.
So if you're watching it on your phone, you're going to kind of feel like it's part of the format that you're watching it on, but on the big screen, it works just as well.
I'm curious, let me ask you guys this, because this is something that I feel has been like kind of pushed in our face a little bit. Like, yes, we know it's important for films to be shown on screen, but is it important when we go to films now to be reminded about this? Because it seems like when we go to films now, it's this constant thing of reminding, hey, we're now showing the film the way that it was meant to be seen. Okay, I think we all know how these are meant to be seen. And I think at that time period, people were just fucking doing the best they can, right?
Mhm.
So I think, I don't know how, if you guys think about this, and we're going to dig into the movie after this. I feel like there were also a lot of growth that happened during that time period where so many people looked at the negative that happened in that time period. But I'm curious to you guys, did you experience any type of growth as writers, filmmakers, people, husbands, wives, sons, children, Satan worshipers? Like what did you like did you experience any type of growth in this time
I
period?
I think so, you know, and I think like I think what I really cherish about this filmmaking experience, and Matt and I could sort of agree on this, is that because we didn't know what the landscape of cinema was really going to look like as we were making
Yeah,
it, kind
yeah.
of had more room to experiment and to work within constraints, which I think is where some of the best films come from. I think the more challenges you have, the more creative and innovative you have to be with limited resources. I think that's
Hmm.
where some of the best creative filmmaking comes from. And you know, we didn't have a big budget, but we made this thing that we love, and it taught us that we didn't have to have the, you know, we used every single light for one of the shots we had. We
Yeah,
used every
yeah,
single light we had to
yeah.
light one of the scenes, and
That's great.
that like forced us to be scrappy in a way that I don't think we would have if we were shooting like a movie, you know.
Hmm. I feel like it
Yeah,
made, and Matthew, you can keep speaking to this more, but I feel like it made people kind of go back to almost some like guerrilla film footage tactics in a way. You know what I mean? Matthew, what about you? Any growth?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one of the interesting things in terms of like speaking about growth, at least, is like we made and we wrote and produced and edited and did all the posts while we were working full-time jobs at the same
Yeah,
time. And so,
yeah.
funnily enough, the pandemic, like
And we
because
both
things
got
sort of
married too.
we both got married.
Okay. So let's pandemic,
So
marriage, work. I mean, it's like the Bermuda Triangle going on there.
exactly,
Just,
exactly. So
yeah, on
I
top, on
think
top, and on top.
yeah, and I think to to Alex's point, like we kind of always went into it with that in mind, and like how can we do something that's going to fit into everything else going on in our lives, but still allow us to like get creative and experiment and make a really great movie and tell a great story that we
Mhm.
wanted to tell while not sacrificing our mental health and happiness and all
Right.
this other stuff. And I think ironically the pandemic allowed us to do that because things were a little slower at first and we had time to write it and really hone the script, moving all the way across production. Like it was just an interesting experience. I don't want to like deviate too far into the pandemic part of it, but like we
For
so
sure. For
much
sure.
like the auditions were over Zoom, like the rehearsals were over Zoom. We
Yeah.
scouted locations separately and kind of sent videos back and forth. It was kind of funny because then all that kind of intrinsic learning went into the movie, because then the movie has this very kind of, even though it's not a pandemic movie, it really speaks to that isolation, I think, and that sense of
Oh,
like trying to communicate who you
yeah.
are through
Yep.
a
Yeah.
camera.
Big time. Big time. And that's so involved with what we see going on in the film. And I think one of the things that people are going to really, really appreciate is, even though like Sarah is fucking incredible in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
when Maddie's parts intersect with hers, they get to see almost isolation between two different characters in various ways. So let's talk about the film. So where did this idea come from? Was this something that was like handed to you guys? Did you guys all come together to create this? Like, where did this come from? Because there's a lot of layers to this, and it's almost kind of funny that the title would be this like three titled title, because it's so like deep, because just the practice of yoga itself, just the subject matter of yoga, is so personal to people. I mean, it's an individual practice for a reason. It's so personal for people that I'm very, very curious to where all this came from.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to what Matt said about isolation, I think during the pandemic, I was completely addicted to yoga with Adrian.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, yeah,
she's a
yeah,
YouTube yoga
yeah.
influencer.
I
She's like
totally know who that is. Yeah,
she's the one.
yeah, yeah.
And you know, I kind
That's
of
funny.
had sort of like I was sort of
That's
leaning
great.
on her to get me through my days. I was just doing these solo
I mean, I would
practices.
lean on her to get through some of my days too, even as a married man. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. She's the best. She's the best. And I had heard sort of shared her page with a bunch of my friends, and my buddy Topher, who's credited on the movie,
Hmm.
he sent me back one of the videos he had done, and he was like, look at this timestamp. And in about 12 minutes into this video, she's like in the middle of like a downward facing dog, and the camera starts to move and readjust. And that was the first time I had ever seen the camera move. I didn't realize that during almost all these videos, there's someone else in the room with her. I thought she was
Hmm.
shooting it all herself, but there was something sort of like supernatural about that. And he was like, I don't know why, but this like really creeped me out. And that sort of got me going on this idea. And then Matt and I sort of built out this feature idea together, because I think
Hmm.
he was also really keyed into the sort of YouTube world of it all. And you know, we were both big fans of like the found footage genre. So uh, that's kind of what kicked it off. But Matt, you can.
Yeah,
Love
I mean
hearing that. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
that was really the genesis of it. And I think it was that idea and then figuring out how we can, as people who like the found footage genre, and we're particularly influenced by this movie Host, which was like a 50-minute horror movie set totally on Zoom. And that was
Hmm.
kind of that was like
Big
the
shout out to Rob
formal.
Savage. Big shout out to Rob
Yep.
Savage.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's great, and it's a big sort of formal influence in the sense of like super
Hmm.
minimal, done on a screen. How can we do something different? And it, as fans of the genre, we also wanted to be like, what are the things we don't like about it that we
Yeah.
can change? And like, a lot of that that's what kind of influenced the like, let's make this look cinematically uncinematic. So it's kind of
Yeah,
beatific, but is like not too far outside the realm of what you could believe.
for
And
sure. And I think, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead,
Oh yeah,
Alex. No,
no.
go ahead.
Another big inspiration for us was Bo Burnham's Inside.
Mhm.
Oh,
That
oh,
was
okay.
another
Yeah.
another
Let's
film sort of
go.
built in isolation.
Yeah, we're going across the seas over to Gay Paris so we can
Yeah,
talk about movies of women chasing after women with babies in their bellies. So, yes. Yeah. So,
I don't know what that one is.
so there's a French movie also called Inside, and it's about a young lady who goes to her
Oh,
house the day before she's about to have a child, and she's all by herself because her fiance is at work in another country, and one of the nurses at the hospital follow her to the house because she actually wants to take the baby from her before she's due to go back to the hospital. If you catch my drift,
I got to check that out.
amazing movie. That is the
okay,
inside you need to see, especially in regards to isolation. And
okay.
probably one of the best cop scenes I've ever seen in a movie. If you've ever thought cops could be dumb for 1 minute, you need to see this 5 minute scene, and you will realize that, oh yeah, they are people too, and they can be the dumbest motherfuckers ever. So yeah, so it's and that's the thing. It's like, you guys, I'm glad that you're speaking to isolation, because I feel like that's something that people are going to get the vibe from your film right off the bat. Where did you, like, where is this house? Like, where, talk to me about setting, location, because I want to get into the talent, because the girls are phenomenal, of course. So I definitely want to dig into them. But in regards to like this setting, when you know you're doing something that's going to be involved in isolation, it's in this time period that you were focused on during the filming. How do you, like, where did you guys find this setting? Is this a friend's place? Like, what brought this to be?
It was a house that we had actually filmed a short film in a few years ago and only
Okay, so you
used
used
one.
this before.
Yeah, but we initially didn't intend to use it because it's a really big house, and I think we initially, like, we based it
That's a
on
scary fucking house,
Alex's.
man.
Yeah, it's a great location. We initially based and wrote it kind of on Alex's apartment, which was a lot smaller, and there was more of like a claustrophobic kind of feel to things. But in choosing a bigger house, it saved us in production because we had room for gear storage and video village and all this stuff that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay.
And then just
yeah, true.
once we got there, change certain aspects of the script to mirror the location. So we figured out we were going to shoot, and like we kind of went back. Alex went back to the house and was like, I think this place will work. It has all the sort of things we need. And then we retooled the script a little bit to make sense of that.
Okay, Alex, I'm gonna have you jump in on this, but people, you heard it here first. Mind, Body, Spirit on the rise is going to be in an apartment for the sequel. We're going to take it out of the house and we're going to be in an apartment now. Okay.
We have a sequel idea.
Okay. So Alex,
we do have a sequel idea.
So Matt said that you came back to him like, yo, man, this place is going to work. What was it about the house coming back to it another time after already doing a short here? What was it about it that made you, other than the storage that we need for budget purposes, like what was it about the house that you were like, no, man, this is actually where we need to do this film?
That's a great question. And honestly, thinking about it right now, it's that initially we had this idea of everything was going to be in these like one long takes. Like every scene was going to be a oneer basically. Okay. And we shot it that way. Okay. And then in post, we ended up, trimming it down, jump cutting it because it felt a little more natural to the YouTube vlogger sort of feel of things, that just like we're used to that quick pace. And then we let some scenes just exist in one take to sort of build tension. But what that meant for the pre-production was sort of starting to plan the movie and rehearse the movie like a stage play. And even though we had a really small cast, we needed a space for them to work around and use like their stage. They needed space to move, to block, to just sort of like express themselves, because they're both very physical actors. And Maddie and Sarah, that is, like, we needed space for them to really like get weird and do the things that they needed to do. And I think that ended up being a huge boon for us, because that space is used, it's like there's lots of little corners and shadows and things that just do so much work for you. And our production designer, Preeti Sarawat, was absolutely phenomenal. She did a great job. But even she walked into that house and was like, damn, there's a lot here, it just is spooky when you look at it. And that did a lot of work for us.
You guys mentioned this earlier, and I think it's something that really speaks volumes to a film that's involving isolation. It's just that changing of time, like how much time actually does go on when you are kind of by yourself in this particular situation, and you're losing track of time because you're interested and you're invested in something else. One of the things, like even the like poster for the film kind of shows Sarah's, like, I guess, transformation into isolation in this film. So I want to jump into her character now. And first off, like, I've seen this young woman in some other stuff before, and she's just one of those women that you're like, man, I can't remember what her name is, but I know I saw her in something else and she was really good in that too. But then you see her in a movie like this and you're like, wait a minute, man, like, she has leading lady big time talent, like big time talent. And I'm not trying to be rude when I say this, fellas. Oh, wait, what's going on? Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I lost you guys for just a second. Sorry, a phone call came in from somebody else. I'm not trying to be rude when I say this, fellas, but how in the hell did y'all get her in this film? Because she is fantastic. And Maddie, oh my God, like, if we were to pull out TikTok right now and we were to say vegan yoga influencer and then like super fit, like their pictures would pop up. Like, so you guys casting, who did your casting? Like, give some shout outs and some love, because I mean they nailed it in regards to who you guys have in this film.
We kind of casted ourselves with our producers Dan Asma and Jesse
Oh
McClung.
man, that's great.
And honestly, how we got Sarah and Maddie, like, we're really lucky. Because neither of we were kind of, again, to keep this super small and like our limited resources, like it was not a SAG production. We were looking at non-SAG actors, and I don't know, we kind of are asking ourselves the same question, like how have they not blown up yet? Like how are they not bigger than that? And we're kind of hopeful that this skyrockets both of them into bigger and better things, because they are absolutely committed, so professional, but also so fun to both work with and hang out. Like we're all friends now. And they just crushed it. It's a lot to ask of them, and they were, they gave it their all, and that's, we're just lucky.
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
I think doubly lucky because they both had sort of worked in the same space as you. Like they both are certified yoga instructors.
Yeah.
Maddie still teaches classes. Sarah still teaches dance class. I go to some of her dance classes sometimes. She's an amazing teacher. And
are they all out? Is everybody in LA? Is everybody out in LA?
Sarah's in Austin. She moved to Austin recently.
Oh, okay.
Which is where Yoga with Adrian is. And honestly, I don't know if you've ever heard of Mad Fit, but shout out Mad Fit, because
sounds familiar.
She's like the main inspiration for Kenzie. You should check her out.
Yeah.
Her videos are great. She kept me sort of fit as I could be during the pandemic.
All right, when I go down for Fantastic Fest, I'm gonna have to go down and get up in some Mad Fit when I'm down there. I'm gonna have to go get my Mad Fit on.
But I think what was fun for them was getting to take all this experience that they had and kind of have fun, not necessarily poking fun at it, but just sort of like kind of blowing it up and putting it back together for this movie, and like getting to do something different with it and getting to integrate it into their acting. And they both were just so ready for the challenge. And I mean, we were doing these in one takes, and we rarely had to do more takes than we needed for anything. I mean, they were just like ready to go. They're both incredible, and I hope this movie rockets them.
Yeah,
you can.
I mean, you can.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it even in the film. You can see that. I mean, it's like, guys like Jay-Z and Lil Wayne, they pride themselves on doing it in one take, and they have that confidence when you hear them. And these ladies have confidence in their roles. I mean, and I know women like this. Like I said, I was a Lululemon ambassador for 2 years, right before the pandemic. Actually, that's when my tenure ended. And even though I'm a strength and conditioning coach, weightlifting guy, kickboxing guy, whatever, I was brought into this world of, mindfulness is what they always preach at places like Lululemon. So when you meet these people, you're like, man, you do meet that like super hardcore, like, yeah, I'm like, everything is fitness, and I got 9 water bottles with stickers on them and all this stuff. And then you do meet the girls who are like, well, we eat, bean sprout sandwiches every single day, and we do yoga with goats but they're all in the same bubbles, and they're all in the same atmospheres. And I think that's going to be great for you guys, and also for the girls, because it's going to be so much familiar. Like, it's just going to be so familiar to people seeing these, and then having it on the like landscape of the YouTube kind of influencer TikTok thing is very, very smart. So I'm curious, from a writing standpoint, how important is it now in this day and age to make sure? And Rob Savage, I even asked the same thing, because you look at films that he did, like we were talking about earlier, Host, his film Dash Cam is all about like a little beatboxing, rapping, Trump supporting influencer girl. Like, do you feel like right now it's appropriate that we have these films showing what the kind of the kids and the people are going through that are trying to navigate through this new landscape of being an influencer? Because that's something that's that, want to say, hidden layer, maybe the body part of mind, body, and spirit, that I think people are going to get hit with right off the bat is they're going to be like, damn, like regardless if you're super high or you're just getting started, just being in this in general it's a lot. It's a lot of weight to take on right off the bat. Do you feel it's necessary in this day and age to make sure we're touching topics like this because of how prevalent social media and stuff is in this day and age for these kids? Either one of you guys.
I definitely think so. And I mean, I feel like I'm speaking for Alex too. Like we're both in our 30s and we kind of came of age as technology was coming of age. And so I think, at least from our point of view, we're going to look at this stuff mostly through a very critical lens, because I think we came up without it. And now we're seeing a generation that came up with it. And we're kind of like, I don't know, like how, whether that's us feeling or sounding old, or if there is truth to it. And I think that that's movies, especially horror movies, are always a good avenue to explore that sort of social commentary and that sort of satire, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that it is like, it doesn't have to be everything, but I think that it's important that those tools are being used to tell stories. And I think that it's good that we're looking at them both from an entertainment perspective, but also a critical perspective.
Yep. It's a great answer, man. Great answer. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's super important. I mean, I think, our generation, we're the guinea pig. We were the guinea pigs for almost everything. And I think Instagram was the last thing that they really tested out on us. And now they're like, all right, y'all need to get put out to pasture. We're going to move on.
Yeah.
We're moving
now
on to the next generation. Yeah. Now they're moving on for the young blood. So it's,
for sure.
It's interesting because I think as I've grown up, and because I was part of, both of us were part of that sort of guinea pig generation, you start to realize that the internet is permanent. It's like everything you're putting out there is permanent. And I don't know if the generations that are coming after us kind of are aware of that. And are aware of what they're doing. And I think that sort of like cognitive dissonance, like from influencers, is like one of the most fascinating things in the world with me. I've mentioned before that Logan Paul in the Suicide Forest was another sort of touchstone for us, because it's like, that's somebody who is sort of knows what it takes to get views and will do anything it takes to get those views without thinking about the consequences or the history, or the legacy, or the people he's affecting. And I think that's what makes Anya such a sort of repugnant character, but also really familiar and relatable, because she's trying to use those same tactics. She's trying to grind and cash in on these things, but she's not really thinking about where they come from. And I think that is my worry for like people my brother's age and younger, like that they're not really thinking about what they're putting out there, how they're representing themselves, what they're borrowing from, what they're taking. It's like it's permanent. It's all there.
Yeah, it is.
And it's also living in this constant. They're living in this constant state of performity, right? Where and that was something we consciously kind of threaded in the movie, is like, do you ever fully see who Anya is as a person? I don't think so. And you hardly see who Kenzie is as a person. You're always seeing some shade of them performing for us.
But I think that's also something that's, for Christy Nori Varasha, the main, everything behind the scenes with her, like that's kind of like the thing about grandma, right? Is we don't even know grandma. Like your story about Anya in this house from the get-go is grandma's not there no more, and I don't really know grandma, so it's almost like this awareness, this identity of self is like a common theme that you guys have going throughout this movie the entire time. And I'm even thinking about it more now talking to you guys, because I'm thinking about other stuff that was going on in the film, like even the relationship with the mom, like there's a lot of dynamics that I think are going to touch so many people, because we've all been through what Anya's been through in some shape, form, or fashion. We've all wanted to be what Kenzie is being in some shape, form, or fashion. But then we both know on both sides of the equation, there's a ugly gray in between, you know, like in my neck of the woods, it's the time when you need the haircut, when the lining goes out and the afro starts to show up, and you need to, you know, fellas, you get it when the stuff starts to grow a little bit too long on one side. That in
Yeah, I got it going
between,
right now.
yeah, we got it right on there. We just got back from
The beard's connecting with the neck, you know.
Right.
Exactly.
I gotta get home.
It's that in between, right? And that in between is usually ugly for everybody. And it's so great how, you know, somebody like Anya's, she's all about grinding to show you that in between and what it takes to get there. But then Kenzie, you know, she's like, I'm there and this is how you get there, you know, and that's, and when you see this dynamic, I think people are going to be so like on board with the story and what you guys have going on, because everything is straightforward and precise. Okay. Now, here's the thing before we wrap this up, and I'm not going to take any much more of your time, fellas. This is great. I could talk to you guys about this film for so much longer, for sure. I'm curious only for a tad bit, okay? Because I don't want to dig too much into this because I want people to experience all of the stuff going on in this house for themselves. But was there some research that needed to be done? Was there some studying on your guys' part that needed to be done? Because we are bringing in, what is it, Slavic things. We're bringing in different types of you know, ways of life, culture is being kind of represented in the film, you know, and clearly Anya's very, very passionate about where she's from. What type of research, what type of stuff did you guys make sure you had that you needed to represent in this film to be able to make sure people understood how important it was for Anya not only to have this connection with her grandma, but to represent her people and where she's from, and where she and how proud she was of all of that.
I think that's one of my favorite parts in the movie, and one of the cheekiest parts of our movie too, is that I think, you know, without giving away too much,
right,
that you can sort of start to, you know, talking, like you said, Travis, about the generations, the mom, the grandma, the sort of like, how much do you know of Varasha? I like to think of Varasha almost as like the original influencer. You know, it's like she has convinced her granddaughter that she's using this book that is part of her own legacy. And I think, you know, we've talked in other interviews about how Anya, you know, has this sort of like white guilt about taking on yoga, which is like a, you know, an Eastern practice. And so she's convinced herself that she's found something within her own culture, and she's not going to be this like this like classic white girl, you know, stepping into territory she doesn't know anything about. But in truth, I think there's nothing in her own legacy that is part of this thing. I think it's like, it's true like witchcraft, and it's an amalgamation of things from all sorts of different cultures. I think
man, it's fucking evil.
I think Varasha took from what she could, and I think what we built was something that was sort of like borrowed from a lot of different things. Like some of it's she says it's Slavic, so that Anya's like, hey, I'm locked in, like, this is me. And it's like some of it's like Inuit, and some of it is like, you know, German or whatever, and like it's like it's all just kind of pulled into this one thing that she feels is part of her culture, but is just another kind of lie.
Yeah, what do you think, Matt? What are your thoughts on like the whole connection of like the family and the existence, and how it just kind of keeps creating these layers that you guys have in this film?
I mean, I think, you know, everything Alex said, plus the fact that generations never tell the whole truth to the next one down. So
true. Oh, look at you, man, throwing out darts.
You know, you're all, and she's in this place of like basically basing her identity on half learned, half truths. And part of what we did do, like the research we did do, like, was about setting the table. And then it was sort of like, let's do our due diligence and make sure we're not like bullshitting too much here. And then, you know, again, not to give anything away, but there's a point where it starts to unravel. And that was where we started to borrow more things and combine things and whatnot. And, you know, our production designer, Preeti, also did a lot of research on her own to bring in these sort of table setting elements to be like,
Yeah.
you know, to give Anya the sort of like, okay, I believe this, I buy it, it seems legit, I'm gonna dive in head first. And then what she realizes at the bottom was a lot closer than she thought.
I would have not dove in. I would have walked right back out of that motherfucking house. There's some weird shit. There's some weird shit going on in that house. Okay.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, fellas, once again, I really, really appreciate your time. Before I let you go, there's only one thing that I always ask every filmmaker, talent, anybody behind the scenes. What's one thing that you hope when people see Mind, Body, Spirit, they take from the film after they see it? Alex, go ahead and answer first.
I just hope people have a good time, honestly. And
great answer.
And I hope they laugh, and I hope they scream, and I hope that they think a little bit. I mean, honestly, that's all you could ask for from a movie, I think, and that's what we set out to do, and I hope that's what people get from it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I second that.
Well, personally, I feel like people are going to definitely be terrified, which is going to bring into the whole entertainment factor. There are definitely going to be some laughs, and I think this has legs that's going to be able to hit audiences outside of horror movies. And for me, it's the reason why I got into the business in the first place, is because I wanted people to know that while we all love seeing bodies being ripped into many, many pieces, there's levels to this game. And sometimes the levels involve yoga practitioners come into the mix. And honestly, Alex, you said something that's great, and I'm gonna end it on this, fellas. I think if we were to look at this whole influencer thing and the fact that like our phones are the main reasons why this stuff exists, the original phone is the book, right? So clearly, if we're looking at the original influencer, you probably nailed it right on the head with Varasha, because she left that book, bruh, and there's your influence right there. And when people see this movie, they're going to be for sure influenced to see it again and tell other people about it. So, fellas, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. The review is up right now on the website. I know you guys got a chance to check it out. I'm glad you guys got a chance to read it. We enjoyed it a lot here at Horror Movies Uncut. I hopefully have some great news to talk about your film in the future. So I hope that you guys keep me abreast with what's going on with the film, where it's moving to, when people are going to be able to see it in multiple places, because they definitely need to see it. It's great. Mind, Body, Spirit. Alex, Matthew, thank you so much for your time, fellas. Once again, namaste. Have a lovely rest of your evening. And thank you so much for this interview, fellas. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Travis.